Imagine swallowing the capsule. It's small, unremarkable, easy to forget the moment it disappears down your throat. But inside your body, beneath the surface of conscious awareness, something extraordinary is about to begin. Deep within your abdomen, coiled and folded across nearly 30 feet of space, your intestines harbor an ecosystem more complex than any rainforest. Trillions of organisms live there, unseen and largely forgotten. And now, you've just introduced new travelers into this ancient world. For decades, we've been told that digestion is mechanical. Food goes in, nutrients come out, and the process is straightforward. But what if that understanding misses something fundamental? What if your intestines possess an intelligence that modern medicine is only beginning to decode? The human gut wasn't designed as a simple tube. It's a universe unto itself, hosting more bacterial cells than you have human cells in your entire body. What if, hidden within this inner ecosystem, lies a capacity for transformation that most people never witness? When you take probiotics, you're not just adding bacteria, you're initiating a cascade that reaches into your immune system, your brain, your metabolism, every corner of your biology. So what actually happens when billions of new microorganisms enter your gut? What hidden processes begin in those first crucial hours? The answers are both humbling and profound, and they start almost immediately. The capsule dissolves in your stomach, and the bacteria face their first trial. Your stomach acid exists precisely to kill invaders. The pH hovers around 2, acidic enough to dissolve metal over time. Most bacteria die here, dissolved before they ever reach their destination. But the strains you've swallowed were chosen for resilience. They're encased in protective coatings, designed to survive what weaker organisms cannot. Those that endure the acid bath move forward into your small intestine. Here, the environment shifts. The pH rises. Bile salts flow from your gallbladder, breaking down fats but also testing bacterial membranes. Still, the survivors persist. They tumble through the intestinal current, searching for purchase along the walls lined with finger-like projections called villi. This is first contact. The new bacteria release signaling molecules, chemical messages that announce their presence. Your existing microbiome registers the arrivals. Your immune cells, stationed throughout the intestinal lining, begin surveillance. Nothing in your gut happens in isolation. Every new presence triggers a response. You might feel bloating, gas builds. Your abdomen feels unsettled, as though something is shifting beneath the skin. This discomfort isn't failure. This is your ecosystem recognizing that the population is changing. The balance you've lived with, whether healthy or not, is being challenged. Your body is paying attention, and beneath the surface tension, the real work is beginning. The bacteria that survived don't simply pass through. They begin to multiply. Within 24 hours, single cells become colonies. They're searching for real estate along your intestinal walls, and the most valuable territory is the mucus layer, a protective coating that lines your gut like moss on a forest floor. This mucus is constantly produced by goblet cells in your intestinal lining. It's a barrier, yes, but also a habitat. Beneficial bacteria anchor themselves here, forming communities. They adhere to the mucus and to each other, building structures called biofilms. These aren't random clusters. They're organized settlements with architecture and purpose. As the probiotics establish themselves, they begin a process called competitive exclusion. Space is finite. Every patch of intestinal wall the beneficial bacteria occupy is space that harmful bacteria cannot claim. Lactobacillus strains prefer the small intestine, where they metabolize sugars and produce lactic acid. Bifidobacterium species colonize the colon, where they ferment fibers into compounds your body needs. The shift is measurable, but invisible. You cannot see the populations changing, the territories being claimed. Yet instruments could detect it. Stool samples would show different ratios. The ecosystem is rebalancing, one microcolony at a time. Your intestines are not passive. They're participating, providing the environment where this transformation can occur. The bacteria you introduced are no longer strangers. They're integrating into the complexity that already exists. By the second week, the established inhabitants begin to resist. Pathogenic bacteria, the species that thrive on inflammation and poor diet, don't surrender their territory willingly. What follows is biological warfare, silent and invisible, but no less real. The probiotics produce organic acids as metabolic byproducts: lactic acid, acetic acid. These compounds lower the pH in localized areas of your gut, creating conditions where harmful bacteria struggle to survive. It's chemical territory control. The environment becomes hostile to certain species, while remaining hospitable to others. But the probiotics have more weapons. They produce bacteriocins, antimicrobial peptides that target specific competitors. These molecules puncture bacterial membranes, killing rival species while leaving allies unharmed. It's precision warfare at the microscopic level. This is when you might feel worse. Bloating intensifies, fatigue creeps in, your mood shifts unpredictably, irritability surfacing without clear cause. Some people experience what's called a Herxheimer reaction, named for the doctors who first documented it. When bacteria die en masse, they release their cellular contents into your gut. Endotoxins flood the system. Your body must process this debris, and the effort shows. But this worsening has meaning. This isn't your gut rejecting the probiotics. This is evidence that the ecosystem is actually changing. The harmful bacteria are dying. The population is shifting. Your body is clearing the casualties, one molecule at a time. The discomfort is temporary. The transformation is building. Around week 3, something measurable emerges from the chaos. The bacterial composition of your gut has fundamentally shifted. Scientists measure this through ratios, and one of the most significant is firmicutes to bacteroides. These two phyla dominate the human gut, and their balance affects everything from how efficiently you extract calories from food to how much inflammation your body produces. The probiotics you've been taking have shifted this ratio toward health. Bacteroides populations have increased, which correlates with reduced inflammation and better metabolic function. The ecosystem is becoming less chaotic, more organized. The beneficial bacteria have established stable colonies. They're no longer fighting for survival. They're thriving. These bacteria communicate, not with words, but with molecules. Through a process called quorum sensing, they detect population density. When enough bacteria of the same species cluster together, they coordinate behavior. Gene expression changes. They begin producing different enzymes, different signaling compounds. The gut is organizing itself into a functional community. You notice changes now. Bowel movements become more regular. The bloating that plagued the first 2 weeks diminishes. Your abdomen feels calmer, less reactive to the foods you eat. This regularity isn't randomness resolving. This is your digestive system operating with the bacterial support it was designed to have. The ecosystem has found a new equilibrium, and your body registers the difference. The transformation extends beyond digestion. Your immune system, which has been observing these changes from the beginning, is now responding in profound ways. 70% of your entire immune system resides in your gut, concentrated in structures called gut-associated lymphoid tissue, or GALT. Peyer's patches, small clusters of immune cells embedded in your intestinal walls, have been monitoring the bacterial populations constantly. The probiotics are communicating with these immune cells across the epithelial barrier, the single layer of cells that separates your gut contents from your bloodstream. This communication happens through pattern recognition receptors. Your immune cells detect bacterial surface molecules and adjust their response accordingly. Beneficial bacteria produce signals that modulate inflammatory cytokines. They reduce the production of interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha, molecules that drive chronic inflammation. Simultaneously, they support the production of regulatory T cells, immune cells that prevent overreaction and maintain tolerance. This recalibration shows up in measurable ways. C-reactive protein, a marker of systemic inflammation, often drops within 4 weeks of probiotic supplementation. People with seasonal allergies sometimes notice their symptoms lessen. The immune system isn't just reacting to bacteria anymore. It's being retrained to distinguish real threats from harmless exposures. It's remembering what baseline looks like, recalling the programming that existed before modern diets, and chronic stress pushed it toward constant alert. Perhaps the most profound change occurs at the structural level, in the architecture of your intestinal wall itself. The lining of your intestines is only 1 cell thick. These epithelial cells fit together like tiles, and between each cell exists a microscopic seal called a tight junction. These junctions control what passes from your gut into your bloodstream. Modern life degrades these seals. Processed foods, chronic stress, certain medications, and dysbiosis all weaken tight junctions. When they fail, particles that should remain in your gut escape into circulation. Partially digested proteins, bacterial fragments, toxins. Your immune system treats these escaped particles as invaders, triggering inflammation throughout your body. This condition, called intestinal permeability or leaky gut, underpins countless chronic health issues. The probiotics you've been taking produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate. This compound is the primary fuel source for your intestinal cells. It's what they need to maintain their structure, to repair damage, to keep those tight junctions sealed. By week 6, these cells are receiving consistent fuel. The tight junctions begin to restore. Fewer particles escape. Systemic inflammation decreases because the triggers are being contained. You might notice your skin clearing, unexplained rashes fading, brain fog lifts, joint pain that seemed unrelated to digestion may diminish. The effects ripple outward because the barrier has been reconstructed, cell by microscopic cell. Your gut and your brain are not separate systems. They're connected by the vagus nerve, a thick bundle of neural tissue that carries signals bidirectionally. What happens in your intestines directly influences your mental state, and the mechanism is more concrete than most people realize. Beneficial bacteria produce neurotransmitters. They synthesize gamma-aminobutyric acid, known as GABA, which reduces anxiety and promotes calm. They influence serotonin production. 90% of your body's serotonin is manufactured in your gut, not your brain. Dopamine, the molecule of motivation and reward, is also produced here by specific bacterial species. By week 8, the probiotic colonies you've established are actively participating in this chemical communication. They're producing precursors and cofactors that your own cells need to manufacture these neurotransmitters. The vagus nerve detects these molecular changes and relays the information to your brain. Studies document measurable reductions in anxiety scores after 8 weeks of probiotic supplementation. Mood stabilizes. The constant, low-grade tension that characterized your baseline begins to ease. This isn't placebo. This isn't wishful thinking. This is biochemistry. Your gut is communicating with your brain in a language of molecules, and the message has changed. Mental clarity improves not because you believe it should, but because the pathway between your gut and your mind has been restored to its original function. At 60 days, you reach a threshold. If you could map your microbiome now and compare it to the map from day 1, you would witness a fundamentally different ecosystem. Bacterial diversity has increased. Where before a few dominant species controlled most of the territory, now dozens of beneficial strains coexist in balanced proportion. The ratio of beneficial to harmful bacteria has shifted measurably toward health. Digestive patterns have stabilized. Bowel movements occur regularly, without the unpredictability that once defined your routine. Inflammation markers, if measured, would show significant decreases. Your body is absorbing nutrients more efficiently, because the bacteria are breaking down fibers and producing vitamins your own cells cannot manufacture. Energy feels different. Not a spike or a surge, but a steadiness. The afternoon crashes that once derailed your day have softened. You wake with clarity instead of fog. This is your metabolism operating with the biological support it was designed to have. The transformation wasn't dramatic. There was no single moment when everything changed. It was accumulative, built day by day, colony by colony, until the sum total became undeniable. Your intestines aren't just digesting food anymore. They're functioning as the complex, intelligent organ they've always been. The ecosystem has found a new equilibrium, and your entire physiology reflects the shift. The probiotics you introduced won't colonize your gut permanently. Most strains transit through your system within days to weeks. They're visitors, not permanent residents. But permanence was never the point. What they've accomplished is far more important than indefinite residency. They've shifted the ecosystem. They've created conditions where your native beneficial bacteria, the species that have lived with you since birth, can thrive again. They've physically displaced harmful species, reclaimed territory, and rebalanced populations. They've retrained your immune system to respond appropriately instead of constantly overreacting. They've repaired structural damage to your intestinal barrier that took years to develop. This is gardening, not construction. You didn't build something foreign inside yourself. You restored something ancient, something that existed before modern diets and antibiotics, and chronic stress pushed your gut into imbalance. The capacity for this harmony is encoded in your DNA. It always has been. The question now is maintenance. Ecosystems shift. Without continued support, whether through probiotics, fermented foods, or prebiotic fibers that feed beneficial bacteria, the balance can drift back toward dysfunction. But you've proven something over these 60 days. You've demonstrated that the ecosystem can change, that it responds to intervention, that healing is possible. Your intestines possess a resilience that most people never witness. They forgive. They rebuild. They remember what health feels like, and, given the opportunity, they return to it. Not because you've earned it through perfection, but because your biology is designed for restoration. The work continues, but the foundation has been rebuilt.